User research, desktop research, usability testing, field studies, all of that sort of stuff sounds intriguing, and you know that you should probably know more about your ideal customer profile to apply it in your digital product strategy, in your marketing, in your brand messaging in general. But it's also hard to get into it. Like, you need to have users and you need to be able to get to them quickly, to be able to integrate all of this into quick iterations throughout your organization. If this sounds daunting and something that you've always struggled with, today I'm talking to Chris Silvestri, conversion copywriter and UX strategist and co-founder of Conversion Alchemy, who is talking to us about synthetic user research and the quick wins that you can have with it, how far it takes you, and also what are the limits of it. Hi, my name is Nils. Welcome back to UX Design to Win in Business. Today, I have with me Chris Silvestri, and we're going to talk about synthetic user research and what's the state of affairs, I would say, like where are we coming from? What is it? What's the entire topic about even? And what are the potential gains and pains, I guess? But before we get into that, Chris, could you introduce yourself just a little bit, give us some background for our audience, and keep in mind, we have people listening who are from a business background and who might not be designers themselves, just looking out for the best way to take decisions in their digital products sphere in the future. Yeah.
Hey, Niels. So first, thanks so much for having me. I love to chat about all of this. I'm a mega nerd about this stuff, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, so my background, I'm currently a messaging strategist and copywriter. I help B2B SaaS companies basically turn their fuzzy messaging, undifferentiated messaging into messaging that's differentiated, compelling for their specific target audience so they can convert more of their customers, whether it's on their website, emails, or sales collaterals. My background, I have a very different background from a lot of copywriters. I was a software engineer in industrial automation, and I did that for 10 years back in Italy, where I'm from, which a lot of people might think, like, what does that have to do with copywriting or marketing at all?
Yeah.
And it's actually something that I reflected very recently, and I realized that a lot of the programming that I used to do, which is different from web design in the sense that it's a very type of logical programming, very sequential. You have physical components like sensors. When a sensor activates, you activates a valve that generates a movement. You command robots, and you also have to design the human-machine interfaces, which is the panels that operators use when interacting with those machines.
Yeah.
And so as you can tell, there was a lot of usability involved, a lot of putting myself in other people's shoes. And I don't know, that's probably something that always fascinated me, understanding how people think, how they make decisions, what makes them tick. And so when I started looking into something more flexible as type of job, just because secretly I wanted to play more with my band. I'm a drummer, and so I started looking for ways to make money online, and then I stumbled on copywriting, and I was instantly hooked by the psychology behind it, all the decision making. Again, those subtle processes that you needed to study to understand how people think and make decisions in order to move them to take action. And so I did a couple of years on my own. Then I joined an agency where I was doing a bit more UX design. I was the UX lead. And then we transitioned that agency into usability testing startup, basically trying a very kind of unique approach where we had a mix of services and the actual usability testing platform, where we did a bit more of a high-touch guided reporting and usability tests for clients, or we did the do-it-yourself as well.
Amazing.
After a couple of years, then I moved into copywriting again when I tried to combine all of my past experience into what I'm doing now, which is Conversion Alchemy, where I'm trying to combine the copywriting aspect with the UX and the behavioral psychology of all of it. And so that's what brings us here.
Amazing. And so like the maybe unusual starting point of your career as a programmer with that probably pretty unique target group. I mean, so right, to make interfaces for people that have like a very specific workflow with a very specific product. I think this is probably like even a good example of where usability testing really comes into, or how it works, because I often feel like if we use research-driven design for everything we do, like it could even be a marketing website. But you know, most of the times when we suggest like to do some testing, even like with a marketing website, then the first reaction often is that whoever pays us to do the job, so to say, says, well, but I know what we're talking about, you know, like it's fine. We can just go with it, and we know our customers and so on. And I think it's probably a fair impulse in that it's just a marketing website, and we're sort of, you know, we've been working with these customers and they're regular human beings and so on. But so like we never walked out of a research session without learning anything new. Like I think that never happened. And in most of the times I would even say that every time I'm super glad that we asked the people who are going to be the customer of whatever we're making, because they just see it differently. And with all of the expertise that we can bring to the table, we're just never spot on, I think.
Totally, yeah. I'm seeing it like personally every day. Like even when I have to write stuff for my website or even social media posts, a lot of times I struggle to put myself in my client's perspective and choose. And that's just because I'm not in their day to day. I don't do what they do. I work on other stuff. I work with different clients. I don't work on a single company every day. And so companies might think, yeah, they know their customers, but at the same time, it's very like a siloed experience. They have their internal thinking, internal processor, internal stories as well, and their customers might have a completely different story. And when it comes, you made a good point, when it comes to usability, actually, it's even harder, because you probably know by watching a lot of usability tests like I did. It's crazy the stuff that you see people do when you think the path is clear, and you see them do something completely different that you had no idea it even existed on your website. They find that 404 page that you had no idea was there, or they click on or try clicking on something that for them looks clickable, for you was clear that it was not. But yes, there's lots of learning, and I would recommend everyone to at least do some of these studies, at least to get some of that outside perspective and see where it takes them.
Yeah, awesome. So maybe before we get into synthetic research specifically, could you outline like where we're coming from in this topic of research, I would say, like just to sort of lead up to the synthetic part. Like I guess we can leak that it's probably about AI, so we can sneak peek that much. But yeah, like in your view, how did we come here, and why did synthetic research even become a thing, or like something that we needed?
Yeah. So I can basically walk you through my experience, how I kind of stumbled on it. Just because I haven't built a synthetic research platform, I haven't done official studies, but I literally stumbled on it just because it's something that I would have wanted for myself and that I tried building on my own. But basically, especially working in B2B, if you work with B2B companies as well, you might know how hard it is to recruit participants, panels that actually reflect your target audience. And sometimes when it comes to just testing the usability of a website, like going through different pages, the performance of a website, it's fine if the audience is not the actual target audience. But when it comes to understanding messaging or even testing a product, like the inside of a product, an app that's testing for a specific ICP, that's specifically B2B, then in that case, you need to find participants that actually have something to do at least, or you have to be very good at instructing them with a scenario, but then again, it might be hard for them to put themselves in shoes of a professional that they have no idea what they do, right?
Yes,
so
agreed.
the way that I stumbled on synthetic research was doing my own research, which typically involve a very structured approach from I typically look at it from like 3 layers, kind of like an iceberg. There's the surface on top outside of the water, which is kind of, for me, it's the surface layer, which is what users say or what prospects say. So that's where I go and look at reviews. I look at sales call recordings, customer support chats, just to try and understand how our prospects speak, what language they use. The next layer down is the structural layer. So I try to understand the context in which they make decisions to see what they actually do on the website, and looking at heat maps, user recordings, product analytics as well, if you want to map out the experience from before customers to users. The next deeper layers, the deepest layer is the qualitative one, which is basically where we go and interview customers, we speak to them, we run qualitative survey, or also we deconstruct our competitors' messaging to understand the strategy that they're using so that we can kind of fill in the gaps and differentiate. With this final layer is what I think, when you cover all of them and you get to this final layer, you get the deepest qualitative insights, the best sticky language that you can use, and the most valuable insights in general. So this being my research process, I also wanted to find a way in B2B to be able to test the messaging. Usability testing, again, with platform like usertesting.com, or I've used a couple of other platforms like UserFeel. I used the platform where I used to work at as well to run some usability studies, but it was more on the side of understanding whether or not the navigation was somewhat clear, the different conversion journeys. But then when it came to actually understanding language and testing language that was on the website, I needed to find an audience that was very similar to my client's audience, like B2B, whether it was a CMO or a CFO or HR people or a CTO, super technical.
And especially those are hard to get, right?
Exactly, exactly. I mean, super expensive.
Who out of the C-suite takes time to participate in
usability test?
Even like in half an hour usability test, right? Yeah, absolutely.
And there are platforms like Winter is one big one. Probably the only one that actually allows you to test with a real B2B audience. But again, if you're just starting out, it's quite prohibitive as far as price, and still might take some time, right? So in my process, I wanted to see, okay, now that we have AI, I started using AI, integrating it slowly in my processes. Can I get to probably not to 100% accuracy like I would do with real users, but can I get at least to a 60-70% that can be at least directionally good to tell me, okay, maybe this headline is better than this other one, or this term resonates a bit more than the other one. And so I literally started feeding all my research to LLMs. Started like 2 years ago, I was using Gemini just because it was the one with the biggest context window. Yeah. So I started feeding all the research, and then I tried, can I actually, because I saw it was born this way. I saw that people who used to do prompt engineering, which now I don't think you need to really do a lot of prompt engineering anymore, but they used to instruct the LLM with a role, and then the responsibilities, the tasks, and the context, right? And so I asked myself, why, instead of giving them a role of assistant or other things that I saw online, why don't I give them a role of my ideal persona or my client's ideal persona and see what they do? At the beginning, the main problems were having it stay
in the role,
in character,
like,
yes. Just because the LLM weren't that good yet, or it was too pleasing. There was like the sycophancy effect. It was like always trying to make me happy. So anything that I try paste, oh yes, this is amazing, I would buy instantly. When in reality,
exactly,
it's unlikely.
Especially but then, if you ask it, like, is this better or that? Like,
exactly.
If it agrees with both, it's kind of,
And
Uh-huh.
so, yeah, at least this was a very good practice ground to kind of fine tune somewhat of a process that I used to use. And then when LLM became way better and you could create projects with specific project knowledge that was easier to like compartmentalize and categorize inside like an LLM, then they started getting a bit better and more useful. So I used them for a couple of client projects. I even a funny example, once I had like a very opinionated client, and so I wanted to, before sending the copy to them for like approval, I always know that, okay, I don't need to depend on my client's feedback. If I'm confident of the research, the research should guide the copy. But at the same time, and they were an expert in their field. I wanted to make sure that everything was aligned. And so I created the persona for my client, of my client,
For that specific
the
person.
specific person that I was speaking
Really?
with. And so I kind of pre-validated the copy and made some edits before sending the copy to my client. And it was super helpful. And it was pretty crazy how accurate the responses were compared to the feedback that I got after once I sent the copy.
And
So that,
how did you get the AI to impersonate like this specific person?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
how much
I mean,
context does it take, so to say?
it was a lot of, basically a lot of call transcripts of the conversations that we had. And I think the one thing the AI is really good at, if you give it natural conversations, it can really spot the patterns and in fear kind of the thought process from speaking patterns of people. If you share a lot of material, it can start seeing, okay, these are the things, the way that it responds if someone asks this way, or these are, I don't know, the nuances of their responses. It's a thing that it's becoming really good at. And yeah, again, it wasn't 100% accurate, but like a very good qualitative feedback that I could get before sending it to my client, and it was actually super helpful. And that was probably a sign that told me, okay, this is really good. I should probably keep looking into this. And then some platforms started popping out, so people started catching on to it and probably realized there was also a business opportunity in there. And now you have plenty, I think, of platforms that do it for you.
Because what you're describing is like you kind of went ahead to try and make this thing for yourself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
exactly.
you just signed up with, I don't know, which platform did you use? ChatGPT?
It was Gemini.
Gemini,
But I
yeah.
tried it with all of them. At the beginning, it was Gemini, and Claude was pretty good. ChatGPT has never really been good. I think it's because of their like pre-training, and it's very
interesting.
AI-like in the responses that it gives you. So I don't know.
Yeah. And then in Gemini and in Claude, I think in ChatGPT as well, like I use Claude a lot just because it's very good at programming too.
Yeah.
And so, like, how did you build up the whole, like, did you use one of these projects where you can add files for it to see in future conversations, so to say?
Yeah. So I shared I created like a project in Gemini. You couldn't create project. Now I think you create these gemmas thing, which are kind of projects, or no, they're more like custom GPTs. So I used to basically just share these chat transcripts or call transcripts inside its like main context. But the thing is, Gemini, back then I was using the 1.5 and it already had 1 million context window.
Yeah.
Which now I think the current ChatGPT 5 still has 200,000 or 300,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm not sure, like either Claude or ChatGPT came out with 1 million and Gemini
Claude
is on 2 million or
exactly.
something. Yeah.
Now the Gemini 2.5 is 2 million, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy good because even if you don't really have a folder with your project, but you share lots of documents, it's still really good at retrieving information from specific documents that you have. And
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. And so coming back to your point of that AIs are sort of at least have this tendency to please the person that it's talking to.
Yeah.
And also extending that point to the question of bias. So like we all heard a lot about the AI bias and that there are certain things that are sort of hard to get around just because it's so prominent in the training data. is like, how did you approach that, your own system?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, so I think so. My process, I call it the path framework, also because it stems from empathy, and I try to use this called empathy engineering. In a way, it's you engineer empathy in the AI for me, but also inside yourself, because it basically helps you, I think, empathize more with your audience once you start doing all of this stuff, start getting into other people's heads, and the first P is kind of the preparation, right? So everything that we've talked about so far, creating all those research documents, doing the actual human research at the beginning, if you can, obviously, collecting all those transcripts, survey data, competitor research as well might be helpful, or like especially reviews where you have a lot of voice of customer data, chat transcripts, emails, everything that's you have voice of customer. And then collecting it and preparing it. The second phase, which is the articulation phase, it's basically where you start creating these personas. So you can do them again in projects or just dumping stuff into Gemini for now if you want to see the simplest alternative.
Whatever you have.
Yeah, exactly. And using a very simple prompt like I have a template that I use, but it's nothing complex. It's basically just telling him, please wear like the shoes of this persona. I'm going to share with you detailed information about this persona. Don't never break character. And I also like to add the functionality, if you say, of instructing it to walk me through your thought process and include it into like a bracket called, I don't know, thought.
Oh.
And then close it. So you can actually see, I'm air quoting, see. You can actually see what they think before they respond to you. And sometimes there are some very weird nuances or interesting nuances that you might be helpful for you, because maybe they simulate the fact that a lot of people don't want to tell you what they think, right? So that's useful as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I use this very simple prompt. Currently, LLMs are so good that can actually stay in character pretty well. And so with this, you basically have like a version 1. The second step is basically the testing of the path framework, so testing, and that's where you try different questions, messaging, you probe for objections, you try to see whether or not does this persona hold to my real kind of human data. You can actually ask same questions that you've asked your audience, and you can see the differences, right?
Yeah.
And then you can basically fine tune it, like you can revise your prompts that you ask it, or revise some of the information that you have, including some specific guidelines that when you see that the responses are not really accurate, or give it some guardrails that it needs to stay in if you see that it goes a bit all over the place.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. And finally, the H of the framework is basically just taking all of this stuff, creating some messaging that you can actually test with real users. And a simple way you could test it at a company is, I don't know, with your sales team on sales text, or even email subject lines, like very flexible ways of testing rather than just redesigning your whole website right away, or even in ads if you want to A/B test ads.
Yeah.
Or running page A/B test if you have the traffic again.
I see. Yeah.
And then once you've done all your kind of this harmonization of the process, then you refeed your research in the loop, which becomes again preparation. So you prepare it with the new data, and so the AI becomes better and your output becomes better. So it's a constant loop, which I think reflects the fact that research should always be a loop.
Yeah.
You're never going to be perfect, and there's always have to be like optimization that you need to do.
I have so many questions. So amazing. First of all, pretty cool. And pretty cool idea also to just go out and build it yourself, so to say. Like, I think that's a very interesting thing that AI enabled in all of us anyway. Like, I don't know, it's maybe not yet for everybody, but I have more often than not. And now, there's this tiny thing that sort of just aggravates you every day a little bit in your workflow. And maybe you can just make a tool for it, like yourself. You don't even have to sign up for a service or anything.
Especially with vibe coding now.
Yeah, even with exactly, like you can just like make little GPTs or agents
Yeah.
for you that help you with something. But yeah, like absolutely. Like I'm a web developer myself, and there's a couple things that I just wired together using AI,
Yeah.
and where I don't have to have a platform set up now.
Yeah.
But so, first question, are you still using your own system, or are you using like a paid service? There's a
Yeah.
couple
Yeah.
now. You mentioned they started to shoot out of the ground.
Yeah. So I still create like my own personas, but mostly for like when I do very first drafts or I want to brainstorm maybe positioning ideas. So when I'm on the strategy stage, because typically I work on positioning strategy, messaging strategy, and copy as well. And so, yeah, it's more of like a first stage thing. And when I know that I'm getting pretty close, then it's more of like fine tuning, and I need very, very good data, very reliable feedback as well. Then I start using some of those platforms, which it's one thing that I haven't really considered when I started doing this, but there's a lot of nuance that you need to keep in mind as far as, again, those biases that you said, because we are human, as humans are all biased. So your personas need to have kind of the same bias as your real personas, right? So there's that natural bias that needs to be there. You can't remove the bias. And so a lot of these platforms have very good algorithms, and the way that they are built, they basically bake all of this stuff in the sense that when you produce multiples of your single persona, I don't know, I want to create a persona of a CMO. I create 50 different CMOs, different in the same age range, various location, but all different variations of this persona. Then those platforms keep into account all of those biases and try to replicate the personas accurately, like maybe giving them a different story as well, different background, all of those little things that are still useful in research, and you need to kind of take into account, which doing yourself is quite hard. So I would say for yourself, you can use it, yes, to go very broad. Like yesterday, for example, I was testing a very simple headline that I was writing, like at the very first draft. This one was actually for an e-commerce, and it said like a set of sleep earplugs, and I was testing two variations. Basically, one was the last sleep earplugs that you'll ever try, or the other variation was the last sleep earplugs that you'll ever need.
Yeah.
And I was actually convinced that try was gonna work really well, just because these people have tried a lot of different earplugs. They were kind of sick of all of them, kind of tired, frustrated. Then I created a persona in one of these platforms, and it was surprising to see that the actual language that worked better was the need, because if you think about it, which actually I thought about in retrospective, I thought about it, and the word try, based on the feedback, signaled lack of finality. Instead, the word need signaled, okay, now I'm done. I have these ones. I don't need to do any more work. And so that sentence resonated a bit more. And so this was an interesting experiment that I could do yesterday. And
excellent
these
example.
Platforms make it super easy as well.
Very cool. Yeah, because like just when you said, I thought, oh, the last ones you're going to try, that actually sound, and I thought that you're probably going to have the second one with the need in it, just because it's also more common to have heard that before. And I thought, oh, that's actually nice. I think I would probably find that intriguing if the last ones you're going to try, but I can totally see the reasoning behind it, that try doesn't sound so final or so confident in the end.
I actually I have another example, and this was even simpler. So this one that I did was with one of those platforms, right? So a bit more nuanced, and because I needed to test one single word. But yesterday I was writing some other copy for another business in IT software development. And for this instance, I was using Gemini to come up with copy variations. It had all the context about my client, their audience. And so I wanted to try with ChatGPT, just literally without even creating a persona, just because the role that I wanted to create was a CTO role, which is pretty standard. There's lots of data around, and we didn't need the level of nuance. And so I asked ChatGPT to Like imagine, because we were testing a conference physical material at a booth.
Yeah,
Imagine that your CTO walking around and you stumble on this question on like at a conference booth. What would you say? And I don't remember exactly what it said, the nuance, but it was really helpful because the term that we were using created a dissonance in the head of the CTO, and ChatGPT actually pretty accurately described it. This morning I had a call with the client, and he had the same kind of feedback because he knows his potential
really?
clients. And so it was interesting because I didn't really give a lot of context to ChatGPT, but probably because the persona is at this stage is very broad, ChatGPT was able to give me pretty accurate feedback on how these people think. So this is an example of super simple test that you can do anytime. Just try and put yourself in other people's shoes.
Was it something like, so I had this, being a technical person myself, like at least that's also my background, same as yours, not with like car stuff, just generally more like web stuff. But so like, and now in the context of Dingy, like when I talk to people about why a good website is a good thing or like what it can do for you and these things. And so like, I would say for a while now, I'm starting to understand that the language I use to talk about websites in general, web properties or digital products, is like, for example, when I say the word performance, as a technical person, like I think about how fast is the website going to load? Is it going to work on a slow device? Is this like, like generally about how fast it loads? And literally everybody else, at least in a B2B context, who's not a technical person, will always hear KPI, like
ROI.
performance in in money terms. And like I had this conversation with someone who was the CEO of an IT company. And he had to laugh so hard when I was talking about website performance. And he said, hold on, can I ask you, you're talking about how quickly it loads, right? Because I used to do the same thing. And now nobody wants to hear it anymore because I'm not talking to technical people anymore. And so this alone, from your example, like if you can go in and quickly verify your choice of words even is already like a very useful thing, I would say, because I could probably, I don't know, I could paste my elevator pitch and say, let's say I'm talking to a CEO without much of a technical background. And it would probably come back and say like, this is probably difficult.
Yeah.
Or
Exactly.
do you think that would work? Or is this
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, if I think about it, like anytime now that I even write emails, because the way that I typically work is I have my kind of work chat in the LLM that I typically choose to start is always Gemini now. And so where I share all the emails, all the context, all the conversations that we have with the client, all the project documents. And that's basically also helps me sometimes write emails, a conversation, because sometimes there's some nuances that I want to convey in the email, and I need to keep into account all the context of our entire journey together.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really helpful to have this way of doing it, just because you don't have to keep everything inside your head. When in the past I might have sometimes forgotten some context, and I wouldn't have included into our conversation. This way, it's actually really good at also bringing up things that make you think, okay, I've actually forgot about this, but it's good that it's included now and we are talking about this and that we bring it up.
Yeah, because like the whole premise that we're talking about is that, well, humans are weird and not square and not 1 or 0, right? And we take emotional decisions and we're like, right? Like it's, I think, inherently hard for everyone to step into somebody else's perspective. I think that's just generally hard. Like some people are better at it, some people are worse at it. But I think this is why personas exist, right? This is why we talk about the ideal customer profile and the thinking process of somebody else and whatever they think is a benefit or a good outcome of whatever we have to provide. So I think this is a very smart way of utilizing this gigantic training data set that's out there, right? But now I want to know, I have an example for you and I want to know if this is something where you think synthetic research might be able to help, or to what degree. So because you were talking about specific user groups or specific types of people in the beginning, I think 2 years back now, we had a website project for a company that was doing industrial IoT. So Internet of Things, connected devices in the production plant, so to say, whatever. Like super niche.
Yes.
And yeah, and so they provide like what their product was like tiny sensors that anyone who has a plant that produces anything with rotating equipment, like I didn't even know what rotating equipment was, but basically like a motor or anything that spins. And these devices create vibrations. And apparently, so before fancy sensors and AI and stuff like that, there were like specific people who could literally like kind of put down their hand or have like a hearing device, but listen to the rotation and the vibration. And from the experience, know if the device was okay or if it was approaching some sort of problem. Point being, we were building a website for a company selling these fancy sensors that had to go on other people's machines. And so our target group for this website was decision makers at industrial companies, I guess.
Maybe like procurement people, like people who needed to to acquire
all of
these
those
components.
Like I think actually like the operators, but also the procurement people. Like, and so for us it was very hard like to extrapolate all of the knowledge that we had about the product onto the target group. And so to talk to these people, we had a concept for the website and we wanted to know, are we hinging on the like generally the right idea to convey the product's value, so to say? And like our hot theory was that we built one of these ROI calculators. So the main piece on the website would be tell us just a couple numbers about the plant that you're running, and we will tell you when you have break even in your ROI and when you start to make money off our solution, because we thought that must be super attractive, right? And then we wanted to test, and thankfully, the people at Relayer, at the company back then, they went through the trouble to go to their network to find people that were not already customers, and basically enabled us to do this usability testing, right? But I mean, that was really hard to come by, and I think only through the dedication of the customer was it possible to find these people. And so we learned that our proposition of this calculator, nobody wanted that. Like we talked to 5 people, all 5 of them told us, look, I know I get it. It makes sense in the first idea, but I know how to calculate my own ROI. That's my entire job at this company. So what I really want to know is the nitty-gritty details of the product. So don't go surface level. Like if you make a website, then go deep, because that's what we all want to know. Now,
if you say, like you said that the operators were also decision makers, I'm kind of biased in a way, just because that pretty much is the field that I was in before, like industrial automation is exactly the same. And so if I think about me having to pick like a specific software or like a sensor or any item that I needed in our machines, one of the things that I was thinking about is how is integrating with all the systems that we currently have already in the machine. So I need to know the components, I need to know the wiring, all the stuff, so that I can interface with the electrical team, a lot of like very technical stuff. And so it makes sense that a calculator is not really interesting, maybe.
Yeah. And so what do you think? Like, how much effort would it take to get there, to simulate this sort of person? And how confident would you be? Like, how far can we take this, so to say?
I mean, I think, like, thinking again from my previous perspective, like a simple example, one of these controllers that we used to program was made by Siemens back then, right? As they still do a lot of these components and the software that goes with it. one thing that I always used to do every day, what was it? Was to go on forums online and try and look for guidance, because still we didn't have ChatGPT, right? And so what do you do? You look on forums online. We try to look for guidance, especially because those components always have problems, because you source different components from this different manufacturer and you have to configure them, and it's a mess sometimes. And so, being that the main resource was still always the internet, there were forums, public forums that you could go and visit. I think LLMs in general, AI, as a very good source material that you can gather from. And so especially if you use one of those platforms that are pretty good at creating accurate personas, I think there's a very good chance that you could actually have a very good profile for that specific operator or the specific procurement manager, just because the material is online and it's available and it's constantly being updated. So yeah, I definitely think so. Probably like an 8.
Very, very cool. Because, I guess the question is, how much information about the persona would I need to make, like, as you said before, right?
Yeah.
Like a CTO, if you don't have like a very specific question about their specific industry now, it's probably good enough to tell it it's a CTO, right?
Yeah.
Like it's and then maybe the company size or something like that. And then I can imagine that that's good enough. And for these companies, you probably have to, go a little bit further to circle the exact persona that you were going for.
Yeah.
But
I think like if you were the company, the first thing that I would do, and I want to try, or if you were an agency working with this company like you did, I would definitely go on Reddit and search for different forums where we have these people talk about these components. But in general, it doesn't even need to be talking about the specific type of product. It needs them talking about their industry or their market or whatever they do, just because then the AI can infer a lot of things from these things. Copy paste all of that material from forums, from Reddit, all those conversations, put them inside one of these platforms and have it generate profiles. And I think it work pretty well.
Amazing. And synthetic research sounds like an amazing tool for service providers like you and me. It also kind of sounds like if you were, I don't know, a company who wanted to just get into research a little bit more anyway, like either you didn't really start yet or you don't even like to even make a persona of your ICP. Like I think businesses are at very different levels. Do you have like maybe before we come to a close, have like a couple concrete ideas of how people could get into it?
I mean, definitely. So there are a few platforms, like one that I'm currently using as well. It's called askrally.com. And I think they're still in beta, so they have a free plan. I think if you sign up, I think you can sign up for a free plan, or the basic plan is like $20, which is nothing a month. And you can generate a lot of different personas, have lots of chats. And so that is probably one of the very good place to start if you want to test different personas and messaging. And this platform in particular, the way that it works is more like a chat. So you create your personas and then you basically have chats with these personas. It gives you like a collected response, like a summary, and then you can go in and view all the individual responses of all your personas individually. You can also test the variants, like multiple choice, for example. Ask it if you have different headlines. You can ask it, okay, which one of these would you go for? So that's a very good platform. Another one that I tested is called Synthetic Users, which I think they target a bit more kind of enterprise company maybe. And their angle, I think it's a bit more towards product usability, or in general, more structured research studies. So they have a very, very good way of helping you craft different sets of questions. And then it's kind of like they run all of these questions through their personas, and then they give you a report with all the responses to each question, the findings, the takeaways. It's kind of like running a formal research study, basically, that a McKinsey company would do for you.
Just they do it all in one go and then come back with the...
It takes, I don't know, it takes a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Compared to like a month. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. So those are two platforms that you could probably start with and test. And the very good thing about all of these companies that I think that I really appreciate is that they give you a lot of good context and the research behind what they do. So they always publish research reports, papers or studies or articles even that go into the behind the scenes of how they build these personas. And so you really understand that it's not as simple as prompting ChatGPT. It's like there's a lot that goes behind it
Yeah.
that makes them that good. So yeah, I think those are two good places to start.
Crazy. And is there anything that you stumbled upon that you would wish for the future? Like that's not there yet? Or where would
Yeah.
you draw the line with something that just doesn't work or not reliably? I don't know. Is there
Yeah,
something like that?
sure. I was speaking, in fact, this morning with someone who was actually building this, and like according to him, we are basically already there. I tried experimenting, playing very lightly with it, but it's basically this concept of you have the user experience, and now with AI agents, you start having agent experience, which means agents going on websites, buying stuff for you, or accomplishing actions for you. You can literally see AI do things on your website and controlling computer.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've been trying. There's a lot of AI browsers now. In fact, the one that I'm using now is an AI browser.
Yeah.
Where you can actually ask it to do stuff for you. Or there are agent app like Lindy AI. It's kind of like an agent workflow app that allows you to have these agents that also control your computer. Like the other day, I had this agent basically go on my WordPress site and post the show notes of my podcast for me.
Yeah.
And he could see
So
all
you
the
didn't
steps.
have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's still super slow, which is a
Yeah.
bit of annoying, but I think it can only get better.
Mm.
But again, going back to this concept of agent experience, one of the next good things that could come out of this is having AI go through a website or a product and basically run a usability testing for you, which
Yeah.
these platforms that we mentioned about synthetic research, I don't think they still do. Like you can share screenshots, you can ask them what you think about this interface, but they still don't go through your website and accomplish actions.
Yeah.
And so I think that would be super interesting. Also, because if you can then combine the ability to create your personas, you can create your persona and have it accomplish an action. So you basically have the entire customer journey simulated. They can give you lots of insights into what they understand of the messaging. If that understanding then translates into the correct action, expectations, especially because now with reasoning models that shows you what they think and what they go through, you can kind of deconstruct the decision-making process of a user. That's probably the next thing that I'm kind of looking forward to try or even build myself if I can. It's a bit more technical, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think I was about to ask actually, like, so the thing that we do often is that we have some sort of product that you can interact with. We ask the participant to share their screen and we just watch, right? Like, and we get to ask questions, of course. But so they are left alone with this thing. And I also always go in and say, so I'm actually not going to say anything. You do it. And
Yes.
let me know if you stumble upon anything. But still, even the text-based interaction, especially for copywriting, for storytelling in general, I think it's such an important concept to convey anything. And there's so many like stressed out marketing folks at whatever company. I'm sure like you have your desk full of stuff that you have to do. And maybe it can just instill a little bit of confidence in yourself that you get some help, like that you get some pre-validation. I love the example that you said, like you even try to emulate your customer.
Yeah.
And it's a win-win because I mean, they're going to get the result, but you kind of tried to save like one potentially aggravating loop in the conversation,
Exactly.
right?
You skip a step or like a discussion step and maybe get closer to what they want.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's super cool. And yeah, that's very exciting, actually. Super
Yes.
good.
Exciting
Awesome.
times.
Chris, thank you so much for coming on and for sharing all of this. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the what's your favorite place or channel of doing so? LinkedIn or your
Yes.
website?
So my website, you can find me my website. I have this synthetic research report in my blog. If you want to check it out, the website is conversionalchemy.net. And or otherwise, I'm on LinkedIn. So if you want to connect, feel free to connect and we can have a chat about all this.
Awesome. Perfect. Cool. So thanks again for coming on. And I'm very curious in all of these topics, like we're exploring. I talked to one of my fellow web developers, which sort of AI tooling actually makes him faster and what actually works. And I'm on this quest to find different people who have like real use cases for AI tooling to share. And I have to say, I was a bit skeptical with synthetic research, but the use cases that you described sound really, really effective and time saving, right? Like you can get a lot of stuff done and then keep maybe your most intricate questions for the last 20% or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
But I love the approach of just getting there a little bit faster, which it seems to me like a lot of the AI tooling today is very good at this, like at sort of
Removing the
the writer's
friction.
block. Yeah, the
Yeah,
friction.
exactly.
Cool. Awesome. Perfect. So everyone, if you need someone who can really cross the gap between the skills and understands user experience, definitely reach out to Chris. And thanks again for coming on.
Thank you so much, Niels. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. See you on the next one.